He was Damien Blackwood, a billionaire who owned the skyline. She was Eleanor, his pregnant wife, the one he thought would always be waiting. But while he was in Paris, lost in the arms of his lover, Eleanor was doing more than just waiting. She was planning. He returned expecting forgiveness. He found a legal declaration of war. This isn't a story about a broken heart. It's a story about a woman who took back her name, her child, and half his empire. Stick with us because the twist in the final act isn't just shocking, it's a corporate execution. The Gulfstream G&50 cut through the turbulent, rain-soaked New York night, its engines a dull roar against the storm. Damien Blackwood loosened his $800 Tom Ford tie. He was exhausted, but it was the satisfied exhaustion of a conqueror. Paris had been a success. The deal with the French consortium was signed, and his time with Serafina Dubois had been intoxicating. Serafina was everything his wife, Elena, was not. She was fire, ambition, and frictionless modernity. Elena was comfortable. She was old money, quiet, the keeper of his home, and, as he'd recently learned, the carrier of his heir. He'd felt a pang of guilt about that. Leaving his pregnant wife for 2 weeks for a critical negotiation that was really 50% business and 50% pleasure. But guilt was a currency Damien rarely traded in. Elena was understanding. She had to be. She was a Blackwood now. The private elevator opened directly into the $80 million penthouse. The silence that greeted him was the first wrong note. Usually, Mrs. Davies, the housekeeper, would be there to take his coat. Elena would be waiting in the grand salon, perhaps reading, with a warm smile and a question about his trip. Tonight, there was nothing. Just the sterile, echoing silence of marble floors and the drumming of rain against the 30-foot, floor-to-ceiling windows. "Elena," he called out. His voice was absorbed by the expensive, minimalist decor. He found her in his study, not their study, his. The room was a fortress of mahogany, leather, and smoked glass. She was sitting behind his massive $300,000 Scorsese B-designed desk, a place she never sat. She was wearing a simple, cream-colored cashmere dress. It did nothing to hide the distinct, perfect swell of her pregnancy. She was 5 months along, and for the first time, it looked real to him. Her blonde hair, usually soft around her face, was pulled back in a severe, tight chignon. She looked pale, but her eyes, when she finally raised them, were not sad or angry. They were as cold and clear as the glass skyline behind her. "You're back," she stated. It wasn't a question. Damien relaxed, moving into his familiar role of placating husband. It was a brutal trip. The French are impossible. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a long velvet box. "But I found something in the Place Vendôme. I thought of you." He slid the Cartier box across the acres of polished wood. It was a diamond tennis bracelet. 150,000. An apology, a reward, a leash. Elena looked at the box. She did not open it. She did not touch it. "I'm glad you had a nice time in Paris, Damien," she said, her voice terrifyingly placid. "You must have been very comfortable at Le Bristol." Damien froze. He hadn't told her he was staying at Le Bristol. He'd told her his team was booked at the Four Seasons. George Fert. Le Bristol was where he kept a private suite for his indiscretions. It was where he had just spent 10 nights with Serafina. "Elena, I don't know what you mean." "Stop." Her voice didn't rise, but it sliced through his practiced denial. "Just stop. You're not good at lying, Damien. You're just used to people who are paid not to question you." She stood slowly, her hands resting on her pregnant belly. "I was one of those people. I was paid in access, in status, in the illusion of a marriage. But I'm terminating my contract. What are you talking about? Are you hormonal? Elena, sit down, you're not making sense. She slid a thick, blue, leather-bound folder from the desk blotter toward him. It landed with a soft, expensive thud next to the unopened Cartier box. I'm making perfect sense, she said. These are divorce papers. My lawyer, Marcus Thorne, filed them with the New York County Clerk's office this morning at 9 a.m. You were served by proxy via your legal counsel, Arthur Kensington, at 9:05 a.m. I imagine he's been trying to reach you. Damien stared at the folder as if it were a snake. He opened it. His hands, which had signed billion-dollar deals without a tremor, were shaking. Petition for dissolution of marriage, Elena Vance Blackwood. Petitioner, vers Damien Ories Blackwood. Respondent. He laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound. This is absurd. Elena, stop this game. You're pregnant. You're pregnant with my son, my heir. Elena walked around the desk, stopping a safe distance from him. She finally looked at him, truly looked at him, and he saw a stranger. The soft, pliant girl he'd married was gone. In her place was a woman made of polished steel. That's precisely why I'm divorcing you, she said, her voice clear and carrying over the storm. I will not raise my child in a house built on lies. I will not raise my son to be his father, and I will not be the quiet, humiliated wife who looks the other way. This isn't a game, Damien. This is an extraction. You have nothing, he snarled, his charm vanishing, replaced by the raw, brutal core of his power. I own this building. I own that dress. I own you. You signed a prenup. You'll get your little severance package and you'll be ruined. Will I? Elena smiled. It was the first emotion he'd seen on her face, and it terrified him. You should have read the fine print, Damien. Arthur Kensington really is a terrible lawyer. Or maybe he just never thought I'd be the one to use it. She walked past him, toward the door. Where are you going? He demanded. I'm going to my new home. My driver is waiting. I'll have you declared an unfit mother. I'll take that baby. I will bury you, Elena. Elena paused at the door of the study, her hand on the cold brass handle. She looked back at him, a creature of pity and ice. You can't, she said softly. You're not the only one with secrets, Damien, and mine are so much bigger than a cheap affair in Paris. Goodbye. She closed the door. He heard the click of her heels on the marble, the ding of the private elevator, and then nothing. Only the rain, the unopened Cartier box, and the blue folder that held the first page of his undoing. For a full 30 seconds, Damien Blackwood didn't move. The only sound was the frantic buzzing of his phone on the desk. He'd put it on silent during the flight. Now, the screen lit up with a terrifying list of missed calls and urgent texts. 14 missed calls, Arthur Kensington. 8 missed calls, Serafina Dubois. Text, Kensington. Call me. It's code red. Text, Kensington. Where are you? She's filed. Text, Kensington. Damien, she's invoking Article 7. Call me now. He ignored Serafina's calls, a needy complication he couldn't deal with right now, and jabbed his thumb on Kensington's name. Arthur! He roared. What the hell is going on? My wife just served me papers. Fix it! Arthur Kensington's voice, usually a smooth, patrician baritone, was strained. Damien, I've been trying to reach you for 10 hours. This isn't a fix. This is a full-scale assault. She's not just filing for divorce. What are you talking about? The prenup. It's ironclad. She gets the Hamptons house, 10 million, and she's out. Tell her lawyer I'll make it 20 million for her emotional distress. But she drops this now. There was a heavy sigh on the other end. Damien. Her lawyer is Marcus Thorne." Damien's blood ran cold. Marcus Thorne wasn't just a lawyer. He was the lawyer. The Shark of Park Avenue. A man who didn't negotiate. He eviscerated. He'd famously dismantled 2 media empires and a tech giant last year. He was young, vicious, and never lost. "Why is he representing her?" Damien asked, a note of real fear creeping into his voice. "She can't afford him." "She can now," Arthur said grimly. "She's filed an emergency motion to unlock $5 million from your joint marital assets to cover her legal fees, citing bad faith conduct and financial disparity." But that's not the problem. The problem is the prenup. She's not challenging it, Damien. She's enforcing it. Enforcing it? It protects me. It protects the injured party. Do you recall Article 7, Section 4, the infidelity clause? Damien's mind raced back. He did. It was a standard clause Kensington had insisted on. Back then, Damien had assumed he would be the one to use it, should Eleanor ever be so stupid as to stray. The irony was acidic. "It nullifies the payout provisions," Arthur continued, "in the event of marital misconduct, proven misconduct." "She can't prove anything," Damien yelled, though he was staring at the name Lebristol in his mind's eye. "Damien," Arthur's voice was low. "Thorne attached an addendum. Appendix A. It's a full dossier. Receipts from Lebristol in your name, for the suite you told her was unavailable. Credit card statements from your private Amex, the one you share with her for household emergencies, detailing charges at Giraffe, L'Ambroise, dinners for 2, and photos, Damien. High-resolution photos of you and a woman, Serafina Dubois, entering and exiting the hotel. They're time-stamped. They're clinical. This wasn't a mistake. It was an investigation." Damien collapsed into his desk chair. He had been played. For weeks. "What does she want?" he whispered. "She's voided the prenup," Arthur said, "which means she's entitled to the default New York state standard. 50%, Damien. 50% of all marital assets. Every stock option, every property, every bonus you've earned in the 5 years you've been married. And full sole custody of the unborn child, with a request for the most punitive child support settlement in state history. 50%. That wasn't just money. That was control. That was his voting shares in Blackwood Industries. "Find her," Damien ordered, his voice a low growl. "She's at her mother's, or with her friend, Chloe. Find her, and I'll talk to her. I'll fix this." "She's not," Arthur said, an edge of exhaustion in his voice. "Her mother is in Palm Beach and claims she hasn't spoken to Eleanor in a week. Her friend, Chloe Jensen, is unreachable. Eleanor's personal security detail, the one you pay for, resigned this morning. She hired a new team, former Mossad, by the look of their credentials. She's gone, Damien. She's a ghost." Meanwhile, across the city, Serafina Dubois threw her phone onto the plush, dove-grey sofa of her own suite at the Carlisle. He wasn't picking up. After the most passionate, promising 2 weeks of her life, Damien was ghosting her. He had promised her, not in words, but in actions, the gifts, the way he'd introduced her to his French business partners as his closest associate. He had complained about Eleanor, painting her as a cold, passionless woman, a marriage of dynastic obligation. Serafina was not a fool. She was the daughter of a bankrupt Parisian art dealer. She knew her beauty and her intelligence were assets, and she was investing them in Damien Blackwood. She believed Elena was a placeholder. His silence was unacceptable. It was a breach of their unspoken contract. She'd put her own reputation on the line by being seen so publicly with him. She needed reassurance. She picked up her phone and composed a text. Damien, darling, back in New York and missing you terribly. I trust Elena was none the wiser. Let's celebrate our Parisian victory tonight. Send your car. S. She hit send, a confident smile on her face. He was just busy with re-entry. He'd text back. He always did. The text Damien was reading was far more sinister. It was a new one, from an unknown number. To answer your question from earlier, no, I didn't get this from a PI. You gave it to me yourself. 3 months ago, you left your phone unlocked on the nightstand. I saw a text from S. Last night was divine, mon amour. You thought I was sleeping. I wasn't. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I called a lawyer. Everything since then. Damien. My morning sickness that kept me from traveling with you. My sudden interest in the family finances. My nesting. It was all a lie. It was a strategy. You didn't just cheat on your wife, Damien. You underestimated her. That was your fatal mistake. He hurled the phone across the study. It shattered against a wall-sized abstract painting, the battery skittering across the marble. He was right. This wasn't a divorce. It was a war. And he had just discovered he was the only one who didn't know it had started. 3 days later, Damien Blackwood sat in the sterile beige and glass conference room of Marcus Thorne's 50th floor office. The view was magnificent, a direct, challenging stare down at his own Blackwood Industries tower. The power play was not subtle. Damien was flanked by Arthur Kensington, who looked like he hadn't slept, and a junior associate who was visibly trembling. Across the table sat Marcus Thorne. Thorne was a man who looked like he'd been sculpted from stainless steel. He was young, perhaps 35, wearing a bespoke, razor-sharp Brioni suit that probably cost more than the associate's car. He didn't glower. He didn't posture. He just watched, his eyes missing nothing, his hands steepled. Beside him sat a woman, equally sharp, his co-counsel. Elena was not present. Mr. Blackwood. Thank you for joining us, Thorne said. His voice was smooth, like expensive whiskey over a block of ice. My client prefers to handle this through counsel to minimize emotional distress, given her delicate condition. Cut the crap, Thorne, Damien snapped. This is a shakedown. Let's talk numbers. What's the real price to make this go away? Marcus Thorne permitted himself a small, thin smile. He gestured to his associate, who slid a new, even thicker, binder across the table. There is no go-away price, Mr. Blackwood. There is only the settlement. As we've established, the 2019 prenuptial agreement has been rendered null and void by your client's actions, as stipulated in Article 7, Section 4. That's a debatable interpretation, Arthur Kensington began, his voice blustering. Is it? Thorne interrupted, his voice dropping a full octave. Let's read it, shall we? In the event of marital infidelity, proven by clear and convincing evidence, all restrictive covenants and asset limitations placed upon the injured party shall be voided. Clear and convincing. Mr. Kensington, you wrote that. You must be very proud. It's wonderfully precise. Thorne clicked a small remote. A large screen on the wall lit up. This is Exhibit A, Thorne said. Hotel Le Bristol, Paris. A charge for $44,000 for a 10-night stay, booked on your client's corporate card. The same card he used to tell my client the hotel was fully booked for her children's charity gala planning committee. A demonstrable lie. He clicked again. Exhibit B, a high-resolution photograph. You, Mr. Blackwood, and Ms. Seraphina Dubois, kissing at the entrance to the hotel. Time-stamped. 2 nights ago, 11:17 p.m., Paris time, while your pregnant wife was at home. He clicked again. Exhibit C, a private villa in Lake Como, 6 months ago. A solo wellness retreat, you called it. Here you are, on a boat with Miss Dubois. Your hand is on her thigh. My investigator got a lovely shot. Clear and convincing, wouldn't you say?" Damien felt the blood drain from his face. 6 months. Elena had known for 6 months. "This," Damien said, finding his voice, "is circumstantial. It's a violation of my privacy." "It's evidence," Thorne corrected him. "And we have more. Airline manifests, text messages you foolishly sent from a company-owned device, sworn affidavits from hotel staff. We have a mountain of it, Mr. Blackwood. You didn't just have an affair. You kept a ledger." Kensington looked sick. "Marcus, this is excessive. What does she want?" Thorne closed the file. The screen went black. "My client is a reasonable woman. She does not want to destroy Blackwood Industries. She is, after all, the mother of its future. Well, a future shareholder." He slid a single sheet of paper across the table. It was a term sheet. "1," Thorne said. "My client wants $200 million liquid assets transferred to a blind trust in her name within 30 days. "That's insane," Damien whispered. 2, Thorne continued, ignoring him. "She wants the Hamptons estate and the penthouse you currently occupy. You will have 48 hours to vacate the premises." "She's kicking me out of my own home. It was purchased during the marriage. It is a marital asset." 3, she wants a 49% non-voting stake in Blackwood Industries to be placed in a trust for the child, Aria Grace Vance. Damien's head snapped up. "Aria? She's named the baby? It's a girl?" Thorne's expression didn't flicker. "My client chose the name. You forfeited your right to an opinion." 4, full, sole, and exclusive legal and physical custody. You will have no claim. You will have no visitation unless mutually agreed upon by my client and a court-appointed child therapist. Finally, a lifetime, ironclad non-disclosure agreement. You will never speak of her, the child, or this settlement, publicly or privately, for the rest of your life." Damien looked at the list. It wasn't a settlement. It was an annihilation. "No," Damien said. "Absolutely not. The custody. No, the shares. No, I'll fight you. I'll drag this through the courts for a decade. I'll prove she's an unfit mother. A gold-digging, manipulative—" "I would advise against that," Thorne said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You see, Mr. Blackwood, you seem to believe you are the only one with leverage. You think this is about your affair in Paris." He leaned forward. "This isn't about sex. This is about fraud." Kensington paled. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the Helios Gen patent," Thorne said. Damien felt his heart stop. The Helios Gen patent was his new multi-billion-dollar clean energy division. It was the future of his company. "My client," Thorne said, "was reviewing your financials, as she has been for 6 months. She found some irregularities. Specifically, the $50 million you listed as R&D expenses that was actually funneled to an offshore shell corporation in the Caymans. The same shell corporation you used to buy the silence of an associate who helped you acquire the base technology from your chief competitor, Justin Thorne." Damien stared. He'd been set up. Elena hadn't just found this. "Who told you that?" Damien demanded. "My client is very thorough," Marcus Thorne said. "And as it happens, Justin Thorne is my brother." The room spun. This wasn't a divorce. It was a corporate raid. Elena hadn't just hired a lawyer. She had allied herself with his greatest enemy. "You," Damien said to the empty chair where Eleanor should have been. "You bitch." "Take the deal, Mr. Blackwood," Thorne advised, standing up and smoothing his suit jacket. "Because if you fight me on the custody, if you breathe one word about my client being unfit, I will not file this in civil court. I will walk these documents over to the U.S. Attorney's office, and they will be very interested in the wire fraud you committed to steal the Helios Gen patent." "This is blackmail," Arthur Kensington sputtered. "This," Marcus Thorne replied, opening the door for them, "is a settlement. You have 24 hours to sign. Good day, gentlemen." Damien stumbled out, his billion-dollar empire, his home, his child, all of it hanging by a single, terrifying thread. The 24-hour deadline passed in a blur of incandescent rage. Damien did not sign. He couldn't. To sign was to admit defeat, to hand over his legacy to a woman he'd dismissed as a pretty ornament. "He's stalling," Marcus Thorne told Eleanor over a secure line. Eleanor was in a discreet, high-security residence in the Hudson Valley, a property owned by a holding company that traced back to Justin Thorne. "He's not stalling, Marcus," Elena said, her hand on her belly. The baby kicked, as if sensing her agitation. "He's plotting. He doesn't know how to lose, so he'll try to burn everything down instead." "Let him," Marcus said. "We're fireproof." Damien's counterattack was not subtle. It was brutal and public. He called in his most valuable chip, Tara Reynolds, the most feared and read gossip columnist in New York. He gave her an exclusive. The next morning, Tara's column, The Reynolds Wrap-Up, exploded across the internet. Blackwood's troubled marriage, billionaire's pregnant wife vanishes. Friends fear for her fragile mental state. The article was a masterpiece of character assassination. It painted Damien as a worried, heartsick husband, desperately searching for his emotionally volatile wife. It quoted anonymous sources close to the family, Damien's own PR team, who detailed Eleanor's history of erratic behavior and deep-seated insecurities. It implied she was suffering from a prenatal psychological breakdown, that her disappearance was an act of instability, and that Damien's only concern was for the health of his unborn child. He was painting her as an unfit mother. "He's clever," Eleanor's friend, Chloe Jensen, said, reading the article aloud in the sunlit kitchen of the safe house. "He's not just trying to win in the press. He's laying the groundwork for a custody battle. He's going to claim you're unstable and that you kidnapped the baby." "He can't," Elena said, her voice tight. "Marcus has the fraud evidence." "And Damien knows you'll never use it," Chloe argued, putting the tablet down. "He's betting that you won't send the father of your child to prison. He thinks your morality is your weakness. He thinks you'll trade your silence on his fraud for custody of your child." Elena stared out the window at the peaceful, rolling hills. He was right, she wouldn't. She couldn't put her daughter's father in jail. "He's wrong," Elena said, turning back, her eyes hard. "My morality isn't my weakness. It's my motive. But he's just made a terrible mistake. He's brought a new player into the game." "Who?" "Serafina Dubois." In her suite at the Carlyle, Serafina was reading the same article, and she was furious. Emotionally volatile, fragile mental state. This was not the narrative she and Damien had discussed. She had been leaking her own, more sophisticated story to the press. One of a whirlwind Parisian romance, an unfortunate entanglement with a powerful man in a loveless, business-like marriage. She was positioning herself as the sophisticated, equal partner, the one who truly understood him. This article, however, painted Damien as a victim, a loyal husband worried about a crazy wife. It erased Serafina from the equation entirely. It relegated her to a rumor, a non-entity. If Eleanor was the crazy wife, then Damien was the wronged husband, and there was no room for a soulmate in that story. He was cutting her loose. He had used her to escape his marriage, and now he was using his marriage to escape her. Her phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Ms. Dubois?" The voice was male, smooth, and unfamiliar. "Who is this?" "My name is Marcus Thorne. I'm the attorney for Elena Vance Blackwood. I believe you and I have a mutual interest. His name is Damien Blackwood. He's currently portraying my client as unstable and himself as a saint. I imagine you're not thrilled with that narrative." Seraphina's mind raced. An alliance with the wife. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Please don't," Thorne said, his voice impatient. "I have photos of you and Mr. Blackwood in Lake Como, Paris, and at his private apartment on the west side. You're not a rumor, Miss Dubois. You're an accomplice. Right now, he is throwing you under the bus along with his wife. He is building a story that makes him the only sympathetic character. You are about to become the scheming foreign mistress who preyed on a good man." Seraphina gripped the phone. He was right. That would be the next story. "What do you want?" she whispered. "I want the truth." "You're ambitious, Miss Dubois. I can respect that. Damien used you. He made you promises. I'm offering you an opportunity to secure your own future. Tell me what he promised you. Tell me what he told you about the Helios Gen patent." "Why would I do that?" "Because," Thorne said, "my client is prepared to amend her settlement. She is prepared to add a pain and suffering clause for you, a 7-figure thank you for your cooperation. Or you can side with Damien, get nothing, and be painted as a home wrecker in every paper from here to Paris. Your choice." Seraphina looked at the Tara Reynolds article again. Fragile wife. Worried husband. "He told me," Seraphina said, her voice pure ice, "that Elena's pregnancy was a trap. He told me he was going to file for divorce the day after the baby was born. He said he would secure the Helios Gen patent, spin it off, and we would run it together. He said he was just waiting for the right time." "Thank you, Ms. Dubois," Marcus said. "We have a deposition scheduled for you tomorrow. We'll send a car." He hung up. Damien's unfit mother ploy had just spectacularly backfired. He thought he was playing checkers. Elena and her team were playing three-dimensional chess. He hadn't just angered his wife, he had scorned his mistress. And in a war this vicious, that was a fatal mistake. Damien Blackwood was a cornered animal. The Tara Reynolds article had bought him 48 hours of public sympathy, but it had enraged his true enemies. He was in his office at Blackwood Industries, a place he now felt was under siege, when Arthur Kensington burst in, his face ashen. "He's filed an injunction," Arthur panted, throwing a new legal filing onto Damien's desk. "Thorne, he's filed an emergency injunction against you." "On what grounds?" Damien snarled, snatching the paper. "Libel, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. He's citing the Tara Reynolds article as a malicious and fraudulent attempt to prejudice the court ahead of a custody hearing. He can't prove I was the source. He doesn't need to. He's attached a sworn affidavit from Seraphina Dubois." Damien's world tilted. He read the attached statement. Seraphina detailed in humiliating precision Damien's entire plan. How he'd bragged about managing the press, how he'd used the exact phrases fragile and unstable to describe Elena to her, how he'd promised to leave Elena for her. She betrayed me," Damien whispered. It was an unfathomable thought. "She was deposed by Thorne yesterday," Arthur said. "And it gets worse. She also provided testimony about your conversations regarding the Helios Gen patent. She confirmed you told her you had to get creative to beat Justin Thorne to the technology." Damien was shaking. This is a conspiracy." "That's exactly what it is," a new voice said from the doorway. Damien looked up. Standing in the frame of his office was Justin Thorne. He was the opposite of Damien. Where Damien was all slick, dark, corporate power, Justin was rugged, with a quiet, observant intensity. He looked more like a mountain climber than a billionaire tech mogul. "Get out of my office," Damien spat. "It's not your office for much longer," Justin said calmly, stepping inside. Arthur Kensington wisely faded into the background. "This is your doing," Damien accused, pointing a trembling finger. "You and my wife, this whole thing, the divorce, the fraud allegations. Are you sleeping with her? Is that it? She's trading up?" Justin laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. "You really do see the world through a keyhole, don't you, Blackwood? You think this is about sex? I've been trying to nail you for stealing my patent for 2 years. You were just smart enough to cover your tracks, until you made one catastrophic mistake." "What?" "You underestimated Eleanor." Justin walked to the window, looking down at the city. "I met your wife 6 months ago at the Met Gala. We were seated at the same table. You were off somewhere, hitting on a supermodel. Eleanor, she looked like the loneliest person in a room of 1,000 people. We talked, not about you, not about business, about architecture, about art. She's brilliant, you know, far too smart for you." "Get to the point," Damien hissed. "The point," Justin said, turning, "is that we became acquaintances, polite, distant. Then 3 months ago she called me. She said, 'I think my husband is cheating on me, but I think he's also cheating you.' She'd found the text from Serafina, but she'd also found a ledger in your study, a private one, with wire transfers to an entity in the Caymans. She didn't know what it meant, but she had a hunch it was connected to you." Damien's blood froze. The ledger? He'd kept a private record of the payoffs. "She didn't want revenge, Blackwood," Justin said, his voice laced with contempt. "She wanted out. She wanted to protect her child. She came to me for help, not to have an affair. She came to me because she knew you were a shark, and she needed a bigger one." "Your brother," Damien whispered. "My brother," Justin confirmed. "Elena made me a deal. I help her get free. I give her the resources to fight you, and she gives me the one thing I need to destroy you. The evidence. The smoking gun. Your little black book of fraud." The full picture was emerging, more terrifying than he could have imagined. This wasn't Elena being manipulated by the Thorne brothers. This was Elena hiring them. She had been the CEO of this entire operation. "So what now?" Damien asked, his voice hollow. "You ruin me? You send me to prison?" "That's Elena's call," Justin said. "But we're here to present your final, non-negotiable offer. You're not just fighting a divorce. You're fighting a RICO case. You're fighting a hostile takeover. You are surrounded." Justin placed a new folder on Damien's desk. It was red. "That's the settlement," Justin said. "It's no longer the one my brother offered. It's our offer. You will give Eleanor everything she asked for. The money, the homes, the 49% stake in the trust. You will give her full, sole custody. You will sign away all parental rights." "Sign away my rights? Never." "It's that, or jail," Justin said. "But there's more. That 49% stake in the trust, Elena doesn't want to be in business with you. She's agreed to sell that stake. To me. The moment the divorce is final, I will control 49% of your company. You will be my partner." Damien looked at him, horrified. "And as your new partner," Justin continued, "my first act will be to call an emergency board meeting. I will present the evidence of your fraud, your misuse of company funds, and this PR nightmare you've created. I will move for a vote of no confidence. You will be removed as CEO of your own company." This was it. Checkmate. She did this, Damien said, not to Justin, but to the room. She planned all of it. She did, Justin said. She's not the fragile woman you painted in the papers, Damien. She's the one who just took your entire kingdom. You have 1 hour. Sign the papers. Resign as CEO. Or my brother files the fraud charges with the Southern District of New York. Choose. Justin walked out, leaving Damien alone in the office that was no longer his, with the red folder that contained the end of his life as he knew it. The hour passed in a suffocating silence. Damien Blackwood stared at the red folder. It was no longer a choice between winning and losing. It was a choice between annihilation and total, humiliating surrender. He was about to pick up the pen, his hand shaking, when his private line rang. He ignored it. It rang again, insistent. He snatched it up. What? It wasn't Arthur. It wasn't Justin. It was the frantic, tear-choked voice of Seraphina Dubois. Damien, you have to help me. They're trying to ruin me. You ruined yourself, you treacherous. No, you don't understand, she cried. The lawyer, Thorne. He lied to me. He's not helping me. He just used me for the affidavit. What are you talking about? Damien said, a new, cold dread forming. The money. The 7-figure settlement he promised for my cooperation. I just got a letter from his office. It's not money, it's a restraining order. From Eleanor. I'm to stay 500 feet away from her, the baby, and you. And Damien. Her voice broke into a full-blown, hysterical sob. He knows, Damien. He knows I'm pregnant. The world stopped. What? I'm pregnant, she shrieked. I found out in Paris. I was going to tell you. It's yours, Damien. It has to be. And now Thorne. He's threatening to paint me as an extortionist. He said, if I ever try to make a claim, he'll use my own deposition. The one where I admitted I was with you for your money and the Helios Gen patent, to prove I'm an unfit mother. He's going to take my baby too. The phone slipped from Damien's hand. This was the final, brutal twist. The ultimate betrayal. Elena and the Thornes hadn't just beaten him. They hadn't just taken his company. They had anticipated every move, every consequence. They knew Seraphina was a loose end. They'd used her, extracted what they needed, and then, with surgical precision, they had neutralized her. They'd used her own pregnancy as the leverage to silence her. Damien began to laugh. It was a hollow, cracking, terrible sound. He was alone. Elena had his company. Justin had his chair. Marcus had his reputation. And Seraphina, the woman he'd betrayed his wife for, was now just another victim, caught in the same steel trap that had closed on him. He looked at the red folder, at the signature line. He picked up his $5,000 Mont Blanc pen. He signed. He signed away his company. He signed away his homes. He signed away his name. And with a final, jerky stroke of the pen, he signed away all parental rights to a daughter he would never know. He was no longer Damien Blackwood, the billionaire. He was just a man in an empty room. He found himself, hours later, walking in the rain. He'd left his security, his driver, everything. He was just walking. He was numb. He'd lost count of time. But he found himself standing across the street from a modern, discreet, but undeniably luxurious high-rise on the Upper West Side, the one Seraphina was staying at. He didn't know why he was there. To yell at her? To see the other person he had destroyed? As he stood there, a black, armored Mercedes-Benz S-Class pulled up to the curb. The doors opened. First, 2 large security guards stepped out, scanning the street. Then, Marcus Thorne emerged. He opened the rear door. Elena stepped out. Damien's breath caught. He hadn't seen her in person since that night. She was magnificent. She was now heavily pregnant, nearly 8 months, and she wore a dark grey, impeccably tailored wool coat. She looked powerful, regal. The fragile woman from the gossip columns was a joke. This was a queen. She was flanked by her security and Marcus. They were moving toward the building. "Elena!" His voice was hoarse, a desperate shout over the city noise. She stopped. The security team tensed, their hands moving inside their jackets. Marcus put a restraining arm in front of her. Elena turned. She saw him, standing across the street, soaked to the bone, a ghost. Damien took a step forward. "Elena, please, don't do this. Not the company, not the baby. My child." Elena looked at him, her face unreadable in the city light. She didn't look angry. She didn't look sad. She looked indifferent, as if she were looking at a stranger who had asked her for directions. "She's not your child, Damien," Elena said, her voice carrying across the space between them, clear and cold. "She's my child. You signed the paper. He made me. Thorn, it was blackmail." "It was a choice," Elena replied. "You chose the Helios Gen patent over your wife. You chose your pride over your daughter. You chose, Damien, every step of the way, and you just made your final choice. You signed. And her?" He snarled, gesturing wildly at the building. "Serafina, what you did to her, that was monstrous. She's pregnant, Elena, with my child." Marcus Thorne stepped forward. "Mr. Blackwood, you are in violation of the NDA and the proximity agreement. If you do not leave, I will have you arrested." "Tell me," Damien roared, desperate, insane. "Is it true? Are you going to take her baby too?" Elena looked at him. A flicker of something, disgust, perhaps, crossed her features. "I am not a monster, Damien," she said. "I am a mother. What I did was ensure that Ms. Dubois can never use her child to extort mine. I've set up a trust, an anonymous one. It will provide for her child, and only the child, for the rest of its life. On one condition, that she never, ever contacts you, me, or my daughter. She will raise her child in peace, far from here, far from you." She had thought of everything. She hadn't just destroyed him. She had saved the one other person he had wrecked. She had saved Serafina from him. You. He had no words. "What you call monstrous, Damien," Elena said, turning away, "is what I call thorough. You taught me that. Goodbye." She, Marcus, and her team disappeared into the lobby. Damien was left on the street, in the rain, with the full, complete, and agonizing understanding of his defeat. He hadn't just lost a fight. He had been surgically, brilliantly, and completely dismantled. The atmosphere in the private maternity suite at the Weill Cornell Medical Center was not one of hushed fragility, but of profound, quiet triumph. It smelled of antiseptic and fresh lilies. The room was bathed in the soft, hopeful light of a late autumn morning. Elena Vance, looking utterly transformed from the guarded woman who had masterminded a corporate coup, held her daughter. Aria Grace Vance, 3 hours old, was a miniature wonder, her face still bearing the slightly wrinkled look of new life, her small hands tightly fisted, and her eyes, when they briefly fluttered open, dark and observant. The emotional fatigue of the past year, the planning, the deception, the legal warfare, had melted away, replaced by the deep physical satisfaction of motherhood. This child, named Aria, meaning melody or air, and bearing her mother's maiden name, Vance, was the physical manifestation of her liberation. There was no Blackwood here. The name, like the man, had been ruthlessly purged. Chloe Jensen, her oldest and most loyal friend, sat beside the bed, tears streaming freely down her face. "She's perfect, Elena," Chloe whispered, her voice thick. "Absolutely perfect. You did it. You kept her safe." Eleanor merely nodded, pressing her cheek against Arya's soft head. "We did it," she corrected gently. Chloe had been her silent confidant, the perfect cover, the one person who had truly believed in the cold calculus of Elena's plan. A discreet knock sounded. Justin Thorne entered, moving with the quiet efficiency of a man who had just finished the most satisfying, difficult work of his life. He wasn't dressed in the suit of a conqueror, but in casual, well-worn clothes, looking surprisingly approachable. "The building is secure," Justin reported, speaking low. "Marcus is downstairs dealing with the last of the paperwork. The non-disclosure agreements are signed by everyone, the lawyers, the nurses, even the janitorial staff on this floor." Total silence. Elena smiled, a genuine, luminous expression that made Justin pause. "Thank you, Justin." "Don't thank me," he said, moving closer to the bed, though maintaining a respectful distance. He looked down at the baby, a flicker of awe crossing his rugged face. "I got my company back. You got your life back. That's a fair trade." A nurse entered with a stack of packages. "Just arrived, Miss Vance. Congratulations." Among the gifts, gilded baby blankets and engraved silver rattles from friends and family, was a single, plain, official-looking envelope, sealed with the crest of Marcus Thorne's firm. Elena dismissed the nurse with a quiet nod and reached for the envelope. It contained 2 documents, a final, notarized copy of the divorce decree, signed by the presiding judge. The marriage was dissolved. Damien Blackwood was officially gone. The second document was a bank statement, a new trust account established in her name, managed by a reputable Swiss firm. The balance read 200,000 doctors USD. The sheer magnitude of the number did not elicit shock or glee. It was simply validation, the price of her freedom, the capital for her new life. Justin watched her face. "Is that the final confirmation?" "It is," Elena said, placing the papers down. "It's over. The transfer is complete." "And the company?" "The vote was decisive," Justin confirmed, his voice taking on a harder edge. "The evidence of the fraud, combined with the ethical fallout of his PR campaign against you, was too much. The board had no choice. Damien Blackwood was removed as CEO an hour ago. He was escorted out of the Blackwood Industries tower by security. Effective immediately, I am the CEO of the newly rebranded Helios Innovations. The Blackwood name is off the building by the end of the day." "And Damien?" Elena asked, her voice the calm, measured tone of a person asking about a piece of discarded machinery. "He signed the papers. He took the minimal severance package, a few million. His private jet left Teterboro 30 minutes ago. Destination is logged as a shell company in Dubai, but he could be anywhere. He is no longer on American soil, nor is he our problem. He's just a man with a checkbook and no empire." Elena finally took a deep, shuddering breath. The air felt clean, untainted. "And Serafina Dubois?" she asked, looking Justin directly in the eye. "She is also gone," Justin confirmed. "She signed her settlement agreement immediately after the divorce decree was filed. She had a choice: fight us and lose her unborn child to the same unfit mother, claim she helped us build against you, or accept your terms. She chose the latter. She is currently on a flight to Geneva, where the anonymous trust you set up for her child, only the child, will secure their future. She is bound by the strictest NDA we could write. No contact. Ever." Elena closed her eyes for a moment. She hadn't just defeated Damien. She had cleaned up his mess. She had ensured that the 2 children he had carelessly brought into the world would be raised safely, far from his toxicity. She opened her eyes and looked at Justin. I am not a vengeful woman, Justin. I am a pragmatic one. I wanted justice for you and safety for my daughter. It seems we have achieved both. Justin stepped closer, his demeanor changing from that of a victorious business rival to something more personal. He looked at her with genuine respect. You are the most formidable person I have ever met, Elena, he said quietly. He thought you were a decorative accessory. He thought he was playing the long game. But you played chess while he was still fumbling with the cards. Elena looked down at Arya, who stirred and let out a tiny mewling sound. She gently stroked the baby's cheek. He taught me how to fight, Elena said. He just made the mistake of thinking I was fighting for him. I was fighting for this. She lifted her daughter slightly, showing the precious bundle of life to Justin. Welcome to the world, Arya, Elena whispered, a smile of pure, untainted maternal love gracing her lips. Your mother has already cleared a path for you. Justin offered her his hand, not a lawyer's handshake, but a gesture of shared respect. A new name on the skyline, a new legacy. Elena took his hand, the simple gold wedding band that had been a cage, now replaced by the warmth of genuine alliance. She was no longer Elena Blackwood. She was Elena Vance, a free woman, a millionaire in her own right, and the mother of the future. The war was over. The reign of Arya Vance had just begun. Damian Blackwood thought he was untouchable, but he forgot one simple rule. Never underestimate the woman you've wronged. Elena didn't just get revenge. She got her freedom, she got her child, and she got the entire company. She turned his greatest betrayal into her greatest victory. What do you think of Eleanor's plan? Was it a masterpiece of strategy or a cold-hearted takeover? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you loved this story of drama, twists, and ultimate justice, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Share this video with someone who loves a story where the Queen finally checkmates the King. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel and ring that bell. We drop shocking news stories like this every week, and you don't want to miss what happens next.